whole new crew. We got a special guest tonight, and we're going to talk about one of the most popular, least understood facets of dog training. And I'm talking about the guys that put on the suits or the sleeves and go out and get dog bit. Heck of a way to spend the weekend, huh? So and of course my background is in the guard dog company, security dogs. So my life has been spent working on the streets with dogs. So the way I approach this sort of a thing is going to be different than what almost any of you have seen on YouTube, at your local training club, your local sports club, because it's two different things, you know. It's kind of like football and football. Well, here one of them's soccer and one of them's football. They're two different things, but they're both football. So decoys are decoys. In the guard dog business, we actually refer to those guys as the agitators because their job is to build the dog up. And this is where, let me put in a little bit of information here.
Troy says hi.
Who?
Troy.
Hey Troy, we know, bud. Your girlfriend's off tonight, sorry. The trial field decoy, the sport dog decoy, has a entirely different job than a security dog decoy or agitator. And so we want to differentiate between the two and make it real clear that whatever you're doing, you want to be the best at doing it that way. A security dog agitator is as much a trainer as he is a decoy. A sport dog trainer is a decoy. He's not really responsible for much training, as as the security dog trainer. So we'll go through all this stuff, but I want to bring Scott Sinclair in on this. He started working dogs here for me, what, 3 or 4 months ago?
4 months.
4 months ago. And Scott's one of these rare people who actually knows how to read a book that you don't see much of these days, you know. And when he said he wanted to decoy, to agitate, first thing he did was ask me, what are the best books you've read? And so I went to my library and I brought him out some old school printed in the 50s. And yes, they were doing it in the 50s. Now remember, the sports of Schutzen didn't come over. Schutzen came over here in 1972.
Carrie said hi.
Hey, who?
Carrie.
Oh, hey, Carrie. French ring didn't get here till the 80s. But make no mistake, American police departments and American private security companies and American individuals, we were training guard dogs, we called them then, way back before 1972. Schutzen did not teach us how to do that, and French ring did not certainly teach us how to do that. But we learned a lot. We took, especially from Schutzen, we learned an awful lot about dog psychology. Germans are just excellent at figuring out what makes a dog tick and applying it to their sport. And it's a sport today. Schutzen was started as a certification system by Max von Steffenitz, the creator of the German Shepherd, as a test for his breeding stock. So you wanted nothing. You wanted a dog who had a good nose that you tracking. You wanted a dog who was really obedient. They have obedience routines, and he wanted the dog that could be a police or security dog. So that's why I had all three facets. And it's changed a lot since then. It developed into the biggest bite sport, dog sport in the world, and it's a tremendous deal. But let me get some of. What did you think when you got started reading some of the Kohler books and those, Scott?
Information was technical a little bit.
You know how to turn your camera?
But on the other part, just talk a lot about the dogs, the breeds, the techniques, and the levels of agitation, for one. How to get started, and everything else, you know. So.
Now you just said something that's going to surprise a lot of people. You said the book talked about the breeds, plural.
Yes, sir. It talks about German Shepherds, Labradors, Dobermans, Rottweilers, English Bulldogs, Pit Bulls, and it describes everything, type of dogs they are, and their familiarities, and their characteristics and their tendencies, which, in my opinion, helps you when you're decoying a dog to learn all that, to know what kind of dog you're dealing with, and its temperament, and its drive, and those things.
So you don't feel like with that type of background, you don't feel as if you're limited to a breed of just a Malinois or just a Dutch Shepherd.
No.
Any kind of dog can do that?
Yes, sir.
Really?
I would think so.
Is that why they all got them teeth? I didn't know.
Yeah, must be.
What if that must be the reason, huh?
Yeah.
So, and that's the big difference between back then and today. The sport people have all moved towards whatever, they're playing a game and everybody wants to win their game of choice. So they're going to whatever they think is going to be most likely to give them that trophy, that winner's circle at the end of the day. And so they use them out. And what do you think? Now, what all have you worked out here?
I worked Mouse,
Of course.
Pit Bulls,
Western
Shepherds,
Shepherd,
of course.
absolutely.
and we had some Catahoula.
Catahoula.
I never say that.
Catahoulas.
Yeah, and a few other breeds.
Got a healer,
Yes, the blue heeler.
Brittany, Nova.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and they all do good, bad, and different what?
It all depends on the dog. I mean, there's a way of approaching this with each dog. Now, mind you, these dogs are not sport dogs, so they're not. You walk in, they're amped up, they're ready to go. But they have their drive is good. It all depends on the dog, basically, But the approach is, to me, it's just, it is what it is. I just forgot what it is.
You went blind here, folks.
Yeah.
So got a camera bug. So,
Yeah, I guess first time on the camera, bear with me. So, but no, most of the dogs after they get into the program and through the steps and get going, the dogs. The biggest thing for me is getting them excited. That's what I can say. Once the dog's excited, it pretty much flows out. But most dogs are similar in what they do.
Okay. Now, there's a big emphasis in sport on a spot, a specific target for the dog to bite. And again, Scott not only reads books. Do you even own a Kindle?
No.
No. Okay. So
I was about to ask you what the heck that was, and I remembered.
So, but he does do YouTube videos, and he's every time we work dogs, when he comes out, he's telling me, well, I saw this and I saw this. So he's a student of the discipline. He's not just trying to do the discipline, which is one reason I wanted to have him on. He's picked up a lot of knowledge in a short period of time. Tell us about targeting, how they doing it, why they do it.
Well, to me, targeting man stoppers are different than sport dogs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So basically, to me, when you're actually, first of all, presentation to me is one thing, to target. So you want to give a dog a target. And for security dogs, you want to stop somebody, you're targeted here.
Targets where?
Here.
Right there.
You want the dog, you center point. It's like a picture of a bullseye.
Right. There you go.
So that's why the sleeves are pulled the way they are, and presentation of the sleeve is not till necessary.
Right.
And I saw in sporting world, which is totally different, it's open presentation, it's full eye contact, and the dogs are different target, which is to bring the dog out, to excite the dog, to make the dog bite. But not a security dog where it's to stop somebody with a gun that might kill you.
And you said something interesting to me about the sport dogs come on the field. Just say it again. How was? You remember?
They're ready to go. They know. They don't need to. First of all, sports dogs don't need to be agitated. To get them really amped up, really high, obviously you need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But most parts, they're ready to go.
And how would that play on the street?
Not too good. Because you never know where your target's coming from. That's why in real world training, the situation's different, and it's not always in the ring. It could be in the warehouse, it could be in somebody's house, it could be in a construction site, it could be right in the field somewhere out in the woods, where Decoy jumps out and, like you told me before, it's fight or flight. You'll never know.
Right. So, yeah, and while he's on that, let me address the notion of the natural protection dog. Okay. And a lot of the breeders, for you folks that are looking for a dog to protect your family, which seems to be a big topic in this world today, a lot of breeders of German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Malinois, Connie Corsos, Dobermans, everybody except the Labradoodle breeders. Labradoodle breeders, they don't say this. But a lot of these breeders are going to say, well, these are natural protection dogs, okay? They do it naturally. You don't need no training, don't need no expensive trainers. You just get them out there and they'll do it, by God. So, sounds real good, but there's two things or two choices all dogs have when they're really under a threat. And remember, on the sport field, they're using almost entirely prey drive. These dogs are just, I can win. They've been trained. They've got their confidence up. They're going on the field knowing, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. In real life, first you don't get that prep, so you don't get your dog pre-excited because you don't know when someone's going to stick a gun in your face. And second, there's probably never anything to excite the dog except your command, your word, which is what we rely on entirely. So if you take your dog on the street, obviously he can't be amped up looking and going crazy. He has to be calm at all times. So this is going to be one of the big differences in the way your decoy or your agitator works the dog. That's why I say the agitator for a security dog is more of a trainer than a presenter. And there, some of the things that the agitator reads is, this is for the natural protection dog. Your dog may be a natural protector, and he may stand up and woof, woof, woof at everybody and the kid that rides a bicycle in front of him. But in nature, the only thing that counts is living to the next day. How you get there doesn't matter. It's us humans who think, you got to stand your ground and win the fight every time. If 27 people are trying to attack you, you stand your ground and you be a hero every time. In nature, a timber wolf knows if a grizzly bear walks on the scene, nature has equipped him with two choices for every stressful situation. Those choices are fight, not too smart, or flight, very smart. He gone, and he lives to fight another day. That's all that counts. So you take your natural protector dog and you go out on the street with him and you're walking, well, like it happens a lot here. It's terrible to hear, but ladies on these jogging trails and paths that they have that are winding back through the woods, and there's many every year that get attacked. You go out in that situation with your dog who's never been tested, he's never been taught which option to choose, because that's what we're doing with a security dog. We're teaching the dog the best option, which is fight. Your untrained dog doesn't know that. And what if he chooses flight? And you're not going to know until it's just too damn late. So you always want to train if you think your dog's going to be a security situation. If you think, especially if you think you're in a real risk, right?
Yeah. That too, and to me, when I come from the handler side, the handling dogs, my dogs.
Doberman.
For, about 2 years now. And how to handle a dog the right way. And I've always wanted to say, I'm going to try the other side of the coin to see what it's like. And there is a whole balance there with everything. The dogs, the handlers, and the decoys. So, the handlers is as important as the dog itself.
Good point. We weren't really going into decoys here, but the handler, into handlers, that might be another one. Yeah, that's another one. But again, your security dog trainer, agitator, is going to be more of a trainer. Ideally, for if you're going on the field, if you're doing your sport, and you know, don't get me wrong, it takes a hell of a dog to do the sport, and it doesn't take as much involvement with the humans because the dogs tend to learn the pattern. Even the things that people consider surprise sports, which became a big thing in this country, surprise scenario sports, I think they call it. You know, the dogs pick up. They know when they get on the field, something's going to happen, and they're ready to go. You can't have a dog like that, in on the streets, obviously. So that's why the agitator and security dog work has to be a little bit more of a trainer. You also, ideally, are going to have the trainer observing everything because, like Scott just said, the handler plays a part just as much as the dog. In the sport deal, the field is pretty much about the dog and the decoy. And your decoys in sport put a big emphasis on conditioning because they may be out there catching, especially the French ring. Let's bring that into the deal. That is an active sport, you know, and the French ring, they're trying to make your dog look bad. Is what they're trying to do, period. And these guys are good. I mean, ever since the first French ring trial here that Stuart Hilliard put on in Colorado in the 80s, Americans have gotten better and better and better at decoying. But the best are still, no offense to Belgium, no offense to Germany or Denmark or any of these other countries, but some of these French decoys are amazing with their athleticism. So if you're going to go into your sport, pick your sport. If you want to be a decoy for one of the sports, my suggestion is.
Second one says, what is that?
What is what?
He's talking about the French.
The French.
Oh, French ring?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good, thanks, Lynn. Okay, so you, up until 1992, when I started Canine Pro Sports, there were only 3 recognized bite sports anywhere in the world. And to this day, there's only 4 that have had international recognition. And the first 3 were Shih Tzu, the original, French ring, which, depending on whose story you read, followed closely thereafter, and in Belgium, Mondial ring. And then in the 90s, and these sports go back, the early, mid-1900s. So they've been around a while, you know, and they have international participation. You know, you can earn real credits when you participate and train a dog in these sports to a high level. The only other dog biting type sport or certification, because it's also a certification, in those first 3 you earn titles on your dogs. In pro sports you earn certification, because it is a security dog certification system, and it's the only sport done in America. We got a protection sport. You name the initial, you got one on the corner here in the US of A. Everybody starts their own thing, but pro sports is the only one that's had international acceptance and international participation. People from other countries coming here to have their dogs certified, because again, it's about security dogs. It's not about teaching a sport, and that's what our decoys are working on the most. Give them an idea on the presentation, Scott, how we do that a little differently than the sport dogs, and the sport dogs are great, don't get me wrong.
Well, first of all, you never present your target. The target's always hidden. And you come in, however you want to come in, whatever pattern you take, that's we talked about. But presentation of the sleeve is always coming up, and you're always coming in the high center, in the center of your body. Dog to come up. Depending on the dog, eye contact, rolls, pops, and representations, but everything's always to the front, high snap to high center. Only thing I can say is on a runoff it's different, but as for just with most sleeve work, you're coming up high center in your sleeve.
Right, high center mass.
And you give it to the last second. You get the dog, let the dog get it excited, work, and all of a sudden you come out of nowhere basically, and you're saying, here it is, boom, he comes up and he grabs it, pow. Then you start working him.
Right. And I'm going to go back to second Lynn's question, because I'm sorry, I apologize. I got off track thinking about all the other sports. French ring itself, and I can't give you a start date for it, but it was the first international sport, I believe, I could be wrong on this, to go to strictly a suit. Now, they were using suits and bite work. Juan Stephanus had a bite suit in 1902. But theirs is a suit sport, and the reason is the whole purpose of French ring was to see how athletic their Malinois could become. And they see their athleticism with these truly great athlete decoys that are dodging the dogs, right? They've got that clatter stick. You see that bamboo stick that half the people in America are now running around shaking? A French ring decoy can make that clatter stick look like a wall as he, and I mean, it'll deafen your ears. And part of their determination or courage test is that decoy setting that, starting a barrage, they call it, with that clatter stick out in front of him, and seeing if that dog still has the envie, French word, to get through or past that barrage and still take out the decoy. And what the decoy is going to do is everything he can to dodge this dog. His job is to defeat the dog, to have the dog go downfield after him and not let the dog bite him. So you typically do almost nothing but leg bites, because if your dog's going high, supposedly, I would seen some training techniques that might make an exception to this, but most of the time, if they're going high, someone who knows what he's doing and is really quick can dodge the dog. But it's a whole lot harder to move the legs you're standing on. So they have the dogs mostly going for leg bites to get the deal. And again, the purpose there is to steal points from the dog. That's the phrase you'll hear him say. Whereas the purpose of a security dog trial certification like pro sports is to make the dog look, have the dog show the best of his abilities. In other words, is he a true man stopper? Is he a true canine martial artist? So it's two different mental aspects completely. We're trying to show a dog on the field and make sure he leaves every trial better than he was when he got there. Whereas the French ring people are trying to make their decoys better every time they get there. So that's a different. Hope that answered for you, second win. So what about safety factors, Scott? What do you think about that for the difference between the sport and the security?
They're quite a bit different. Safety factors, as for in security, and you're talking about the decoy safety?
Yeah, no, the dog safety.
Oh,
What do you think?
I would think that dogs would be safer. To me, I'm not comparing anything, but as for personal protection, security dogs, dog safety, that's the purpose of getting dogs to come on. So, because dog leg biting, someone can come over,
Yep.
and even with protection training here or at pro, they always high centers, and the dogs are always coming up, so dog can't get hit.
Right.
You're actually stopping it. Someone can hit your dog, you stop the center here, and it's better.
Right.
Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's sort of. I mean, it's again, the sport dogs. They're not going to have anybody trying to hit them in the head with a brick. We got to remember that. That's what happens in the guard dog business. And I had some people knock a dog in the head with a brick a time or two, which is how I learned to modify, I guess you could say, some of the standard training things when we came up with the system of the canine martial arts that allows the dog to, I guess that's the big difference like in pro sports or in any security dog situation. It's all about teaching the dog to control the man, not letting the man control the dog. But obviously, if the man can pick the dog up, slam him all around, then on the street, that dog ain't gonna live very long. So that's the biggest issue. But the trial decoys and the sport people, I'm gonna deviate a little bit from your thoughts because you haven't been on these sport fields. I've been on the French ring field, I've been on the Schützen field.
There's a question.
We got a question here.
Scott, Do you present a mid-bite position while training because that's a natural defense reaction of someone getting attacked?
I usually try to go mid or high to bring the dog. I want the dog to shoot up to get in. Because if you got a dog in your face, you're finished. But depending on the level of the dog and situation, but we do that though.
And,
Yeah.
and it's an instinctual reflex. They don't use sleeves to teach dogs to bite arms. That was not the original intent. The original intent was, von Stephanitz, they realized early on that, and they worked their dogs, and you can go back and see old black and white films from the 1900s that shows the Schutzen test being done on guys wearing a suit. But von Stephanitz realized that for a more effective defensive dog, safe security dog, if you get those dogs launching high center mass towards the face, just like you're taught to shoot, that there's an instinctual reflex that every human will engage in. Period. And yep, our cameraman, young Nate's over there going through it. He's going, oh. So what happened was they started using sleeves designed for this because it allowed for more mobility and more ability to work the dogs instead of having a cumbersome suit. So there's definitely a difference in it, but what the sport decoys can do at the higher skill level is you have a problem every now and with a dog's most vulnerable part in doing bite work is their neck.
He said that's what he thought. Thanks.
Oh, you bet. And so when these dogs are hitting, boom, boom, boom. Of course, ideally, you want to be able to absorb and go with it, and that's what the good decoys learn how to do. The good sport decoys, a suit is not as hard on a dog neck as a sleeve is. And a good sport decoy, they're amazing if you watch how they catch these dogs and move them and set them down and still control them. And some, of course, they'll use a clatter stick afterwards and do various things. But it seems to me that most of the good sport dogs, the emphasis on two things: conditioning, because you might work 30, 40 dogs in one day, and all with high activity. So they're really big on conditioning. And the second thing that they're really good at is dog safety. So if you're going to be a sport decoy, those are the two things you want to really think about.
I have
Yes.
a question. So there's never a scenario where you would make your dog jump in the water. A decoy would never get in the water and you'd send your dog in the water, right? Never? You wouldn't want to never do that.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, that's
And,
okay.
Was that a question from somebody or just yours?
No, that was mine.
Yeah, no,
Because
you wouldn't.
I've seen people do that.
Oh yeah. It's, and we have one of our obstacles in the patrol division in pro sports a lot. We've always used a pool of water to see if a dog would go through it. But the decoys stand on the outside, not in the water, because this has happened. I know of two instances, one in Wisconsin, one I can't remember, where a police officer sent their dog after somebody who jumped into the water to escape. In both cases, the dogs were drowned and killed. There's no reason for a decoy, not to mention the suits are expensive. There's no reason to send your dog into water because he's at an automatic disadvantage. If he's swimming, he ain't got his feet on the ground. If he does bite somebody, he can't pull or do anything. Yeah, and Scott just did it. All that person's got to do is hold him under, and that's what happened in these other two cases. So, no, man, we don't use fighting in water.
Good.
For that. I don't know of any sport, legitimate sport that
Because
would
that's
do
what I
that.
was gonna ask, does anybody do that?
I've never seen a legitimate sport do that.
Okay.
So, any other questions?
No?
I think we're getting close to that witching hour, and if we hadn't put too many people to sleep, maybe we can
I know, right?
sneak out of here before they start snoring real loud. What do you think?
I know.
So, don't know what we're gonna do next week. Anybody got any suggestions? Give them to us. We'll have the crew back here, or we may have Scott back here. We may even bring little Mina in. Hey, Mina, you wanna be on this? Come here, Mina.
Go over there.
Come here, Mina. For
Where's your
those of you who haven't met her, this is Miss Mina Sinclair. This is, if you go to Facebook, get down a little bit, girl. Oops.
Okay.
If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see a little post on there called "The World's Shortest Decoy," and the baddest girl on the planet. So check out my Facebook page. Watch Miss Mina in action against some big old 100-pound Rottweiler and see what you think. This is what a decoy should be. So with that, thank you, folks. See you next week.
Right.
And Second Wind was asking about his hoodie.
Oh, you already turned off? Oh, Second Wind, your hoodie should be ready this weekend. Ladies having trouble with their machine. She should be there. Thank you, sir. This time, adios, folks.